My parents have always been tough food critics, especially when it comes to Western food.
Basically, I'm not a pasta person.
It's okay.
Hummus is not one of my favorite things.
It is a bland taste. I didn't like it.
They grew up in Mumbai eating almost exclusively Indian food, a lot of home-cooked Gujarati food, and Mumbai street food. For them, Western food often lacks flavor and spice.
But I will put little more spice.
Even though I've been able to win them over with some of my non-Indian recipes, today I wanted to see if I could impress them with a classic Indian dish, Dal Makhani. There are so many different types of dal in India. Dal refers both to the actual legume, the pulse or the lentil, as well as the dish, and it can be somewhere on the soupy side to somewhere on the creamy side like a curry and everything in between. Dal Makhani is a really creamy, rich, sumptuous, kind of special occasion type of dal. It originates in the Punjab region of modern day India and Pakistan. The word makhan means butter in Hindi, so there's traditionally quite a bit of butter in this dish, as well as cream. I'm gonna try to veganize it today and see if it's good enough to please my parents. Dal makhani is traditionally made with whole urad dal, also known as black gram, sometimes shorthand referred to as black lentils, and often a small amount of kidney beans, known as rajma in Hindi. I got started by rinsing and scrubbing the legumes several times until the water was clear. This removes any dirt, but also some of the black color, which then contributes to the reddish brown color of the finished dal. Also, I grew up watching my mom soak lentils like this, so there's that. I added a little bit of baking soda to the water and soaked them yesterday for 8 hours. If you've seen my video on how to make hummus, you know that adding baking soda helps to soften the beans so they cook more quickly. And this morning I drained the beans and lentils and gave them a few more rinses and scrub downs. I've got them cooking on the stove now. Just cover them with a couple inches of water, bring it to a boil, and use a metal spoon to skim off that foam that kind of develops at the top. Boil for 10 minutes before reducing to a simmer because kidney beans contain something called lectin. I'm not a scientist, but basically if you undercook them, you can get pretty sick. Or you can just use canned kidney beans and add them later. These need to simmer for 80 to 90 minutes until really soft and tender to ensure the dal ends up really creamy. In the meantime, we'll get our spices and aromatics ready. For our whole spices, we've got a teaspoon of cumin seeds, 3 whole cloves, and the seeds from 4 cardamom pods. If you're using an Instant Pot, you can just lightly crack the pods and leave the seeds in there because the high pressure will pretty much disintegrate them. And we've also got a cinnamon stick and a bay leaf. A lot of Indian dishes use whole spices and ground spices for that complex layering of flavor, and I'm using just a tiny bit of freshly grated nutmeg and a teaspoon each of coriander and Indian red chili powder. This can be spicy, so for most palates use a half teaspoon. Also adding some black pepper and kosher salt. Another layer of flavor comes from our aromatics. First, a red onion. I want it to melt into the background of the dal instead of having distinct onion pieces, so that's why I'm finely dicing it. I'm using a red onion today, but if you have a yellow onion at home and you want to use that, also totally fine. And our 2 other usual suspects, ginger and garlic. Grate about 1 inch piece, maybe 2 inches of ginger. I don't measure it out strictly. And finally chop 4 cloves of garlic. And last thing, our tomatoes. Just dice up 2 medium tomatoes. Now that everything is prepped, let's get this dal on the stove. We've got some oil heating up in a large deep pan at medium-high heat. Add in those whole spices, and the oil and heat are going to unlock and release the essential oils and flavor compounds in the spices. The seeds will start to sizzle, and you want to swirl the pan pretty often to prevent burning. This needs just 45 to 60 seconds. Onions go in after you bloom the whole spices, at least that's how my mom taught me how to do it. These need 5 to 7 minutes until they're starting to brown, but if you didn't dice them as finely as I did, maybe 8 to 9 minutes. And just a little bit of water at the end to prevent them from getting too brown. In go the ginger and garlic. They need about a minute. After the aromatics, it's time for the ground spices and salt and pep, as well as tomato paste. Tomato paste, not super traditional, but I like to enhance the tomato flavor from the fresh tomatoes. Stir this pretty frequently for a minute and a half, and the tomatoes need just about 2 to 3 minutes until they're broken down and really soft and start to thicken. It's time to add our liquid. I saved the bean and lentil cooking liquid, and no, it's not the prettiest color, but it will help thicken the dal because it has those natural starches. And I added enough water to make about 3.5 to 4 cups. Just scrape up any of those flavorful browned bits at the bottom of the pan. The beans and lentils are really soft after having cooked for so long. Before adding them to the pot, roughly mash them up. Potato masher, large wooden spoon, a fork, they all work. The dal needs to simmer for at least an hour. I prefer to cook it for like 80 minutes. Yes, it's a long time, but at a traditional Indian restaurant, the dal is actually simmered for hours, if not overnight. The slow simmering seasoning is what contributes to that super creamy, luscious texture. Again, if you want to speed things up, use the Instant Pot. And for the best results, stir the dal every 10-ish minutes or so. If it starts to look dry, just add some boiled water from a kettle to top it off. It's looking pretty creamy, but to make it even creamier, we're going to add a little bit of coconut milk, not too much, just a half cup. Traditionally, dal makhani has cream added into it, so this is the vegan version that's going to be very creamy and luxurious. If you can't have coconut milk for some reason, you can make your own cashew cream at home. I love the taste, and the texture is even creamier. I just blend soaked raw cashews with water, lemon juice, and salt. But if you don't feel like making your own, totally fine. Just use the coconut milk. It works well too. Let it simmer for about 10 minutes. Stir occasionally so that it doesn't stick to the pan. At this point, you can fish out the cinnamon stick and bay leaf. And if you want it to be ultra creamy, you can run an immersion blender through a third or a half of the dal. If you go to an Indian restaurant and order dal makhani, they're probably going to cook it in a traditional tandoor oven, which gives it that nice, smoky, slightly charred taste. Since we're at home, I obviously don't have a tandoor oven, and I assume you don't either, though if you do have a tandoor oven at home, call me, let's hang out and cook. So to replicate that smoky taste, we're going to use the Dhungar Method, which is kind of a coal smoking method. It's really easy to do at home in just a few minutes. You will need a lump charcoal piece like this, about 1 to 2 inches. You can find charcoal at a lot of grocery stores, Home Depot, places like that. And we're going to smoke it on the stove over an open flame and then use that smoke to infuse the dal. Once the charcoal pieces turn red hot in spots and a little bit white, it's ready. About 2 minutes. The longer you smoke it, the smokier it will taste, so don't go overboard. While the charcoal is smoking, add a small glass or a steel bowl in the middle of the dal. Add the hot charcoal into the bowl, and as soon as you drizzle it with a little bit of oil on top, it will start smoking. So cover the pan to trap that smoke so it will infuse the dal, and let this hang out for 2 to 3 minutes. Some final touches. I almost always finish my Indian curries and dals with 2 ingredients, cilantro and lemon juice. I always grew up eating cilantro in everything, and the acidity from the lemon juice helps to balance the spiciness. Final step for our dal makhani to take it over the top and make it extra special is to make our tadka, which is the tempered spiced oil. And since dal makhani traditionally has a lot of butter in it, I'm using vegan butter. It has that rich mouthfeel, but you can just use a neutral flavored oil if you prefer. Once the butter has melted, add in some thinly sliced ginger. This part is optional. After 30 seconds, use your hands to crush in some kasuri methi, dried fenugreek leaves, as well as garam masala and more chili powder. And after 30 seconds, this should be ready. You're gonna pour the tadka right on top of the dal at the end. It's gonna give it an extra flavor punch. It's pretty incredible, so I would not recommend skipping it. When it's time to serve the dal, it's fantastic, of course, over some white rice, or you can scoop it up with some flatbread like this vegan naan. P.S. Yes, I know you guys are waiting for a vegan naan recipe. I'm gonna work on that, I promise. Time for a bite. Very excited about this. I'm not gonna lie, I think this is amazing. It's so creamy, it's really well spiced, it's got a slight smokiness from the Dhungar method I did earlier, but I still wanna see what my parents think. I'm a little nervous because I don't cook Indian food for them that often. They usually do all the cooking for me. So they're gonna be here in, I don't know why I'm looking at I don't have a watch on, but they're gonna be here in like 4 or 5 minutes, so we'll see what they think. I made you guys some dal makhani.
We call it Dal Makhani.
Makhani.
Yeah.
You can have some rice.
Oh, is this vegan?
Yeah.
Wow. No cream?
No?
Oh my God.
Was that a good oh my God or a bad oh my God?
No, very good.
You have learnt Indian masalas.
Tasty. Very tasty.
Do you know how to put some cilantro on top?
Well, that's easy. Just a little flick of the wrist.
Yeah, but this is flavorful.
Very tasty.
Is it spicy enough for you?
Nothing is spicy for me. I'm not even hungry, but I'm still eating.
Yeah, we had a big lunch at 2 o'clock.
So would you change anything about this particular dish, the way I made it?
No, it's perfectly all right for me. I mean, it's really very delicious.
I can't tell you till I take another bite. Just put more spice.
Yeah,
Red chili.
for you. Viewers at home, don't put more spice. Your mouth will be on fire. So final verdict, if you had to give it a grade, like in school.
10 out of 10.
Oh.
A plus.
Oh, I was a little worried.
I wish I was hungry. Would have finished all.
Okay, folks, I think that's it for today. I'm gonna hang out with these two. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Good job, Nisha.
Great.